Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Stacey Covington Lee on my channel today. Welcome, Stacey.
Hello, Queenie. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, tell us about yourself.
I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia Peach. There's not many of us left here in Atlanta, but I'm here still trying to represent. I spent many years working in the insurance industry, and towards the end of that career, that's when I decided to follow my literary pursuits, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So at the urging of a very dear friend, I wrote my first book, and yeah, she got the journey started for me with a really strong push. And I continue to live in the Atlanta area. I'm still writing. I live here with my husband and my son. And yeah, just trying to make things happen.
What is your genre?
I write contemporary fiction. It's, you know, people always say, well, it's romance. Not really. There's romance, woven through each of my books, but I really love writing books that have a little bit of suspense to them, might be some crime drama thrown in there because it's a lot of drama. So the best way to encase it is to say contemporary fiction or women's fiction. But it's a lot of suspense and drama with romance woven throughout.
Okay. Now let's talk about your books.
Yes, so let's start at the beginning. My first book is The Knife in My Back. Still to this day, my bestseller. People still love this book. This is the story of Brooke and Tamika. They meet in college, forge a great friendship, or so Brooke thinks is a great friendship. Brooke is that girl that's from that privileged life, she's from the upper crust, if you would say, and, has lived a beautiful life, while Tamika is the girl from the other side of the tracks. And her philosophy is, why spend mine when I can take yours? She's a taker, she's a user. Mm-hmm. And Brooke thinks she's a great friend, but her whole point in life is to take what Brooke has, and not just Brooke. She wants to take what anyone has. She wants to come up by any means necessary, and she's willing to do anything to make that happen. But when she goes too far and takes the thing that means the most to Brooke, and let me clarify, it is not her man. I like to say, we as women, we have so much more to worry about than just a man. So when she takes the one thing that means the most to Brooke, Brooke pays her back in a very unsuspecting way. And you'll never see it coming. You'll never see it coming. But it's a power-packed ride. And I wrote that book with the intentions of it being a standalone, but because the feedback was so great and people wanted a part 2, guess what? My second book, Knife in My Back Part 2. Mm-hmm. And this picks up with Tamika trying to put together the pieces of her life after the devastating blow that Brooke served at the end of the first book. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to pick up the pieces of her life, but she has a big decision to make. Does she go forward now and reinvent herself, become the woman that she know her mom would want her to be? Or does she go out again trying to seek revenge on Brooke? Mm-hmm. Again, another power-packed book, power-packed story with a twist. I like twists. It's another twist that you don't expect. My third novel, which is near and dear to my heart, is Bitter Taste of Love. They're all near and dear to my heart, by the way. But it's Bitter Taste of Love. And Bitter Taste of Love follows a married couple, Cecily and Andrew. The marriage, how many of y'all know the marriage? You see it from the outside and it's just beautiful. So they have this beautiful marriage, these two beautiful children, and he's a high-powered attorney. She's, you know, a corporate girl, and everything just looks beautiful. But the marriage is a wreck. It is a virtual train wreck. And he is a cheating, philandering, lying husband who refuses to let her go because he doesn't want his children raised in a broken home like he was. She just wants to escape, and he just won't let her go, but he wants to do whatever he wants to do in the meantime and expects her to stay there and deal with it. But when Cecily seeks a little love and affection on her own for herself, everything just kind of implodes. It all blows up. It's a roller coaster of a ride. It's got some really hot scenes in it, and I do mean hot. And yeah, it's a great story, and I like it because it's layered. It also follows Cecily's journey through dealing with sickle cell disease. So it's a layered story. Okay. My fourth novel, which is my baby, and unfortunately I don't even have a copy here to show because it has just spiked and has just started selling like crazy, and it is titled Hate the Way He Loves Me. And it is a story about the Shaw women and how they deal with domestic violence. The father of the Shaw girls and the Shaw wife is a very abusive man. And the baby girl, Zoe Shaw, is the one that creates an escape for her family from him. And when they get wind that he may be coming back again, the family looks to Zoe again. She is like their savior. They look to her again to get them out of the situation, and she does. She moves them down south from the DC area. They start over, and finally life is beautiful. And Zoe, after all these years, gives herself an opportunity. She feels like it's okay to give herself a chance at love. And she falls in love with a young man who turns out to be what? An abuser, because we tend to gravitate towards what we know. Mm-hmm. And I love this story because the ones that we perceive to be the weakest in this story are the ones that end up being the strongest, the one that is the strongest and everyone looks to be the savior. She ends up needing to be rescued. And when I tell you, the drama of this story will not leave you disappointed. That I can promise you. So again, that's Hate the Way He Loves Me. It is full of drama, hope, love. I would say redemption, but some people just don't have redeeming qualities about themselves. So you'll have to check it out. That was my fifth book, which I'll be reading from in a little bit, is titled When Love Ain't Enough. And this is actually the story of a woman who does have a beautiful marriage. She's been married to her husband for 20 some odd years. Everything is beautiful. They have two, really bright children that are making careers for themselves, and everything is great until Roz meets a new friend at work. And Roz, she meets this woman and lets this woman influence her to think that everything she has is not good enough. What her husband Vince provides is not good enough, and she could be doing better. And when Rosella seeks this life that she thinks is so much better, it takes her down a very dangerous path, that literally a path that alters her life forever. And her quest to try and regain the beautiful life she had and took for granted could be a deadly path. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly dangerous. So again, a lot of hot, juicy scenes. If you like a little love in your story, that one has plenty. And my most recent book was a new venture. It was something new for me. I have a Facebook group called Stacey's Reading Sanctuary. And so for the sanctuary, from time to time, I would post short stories, like Short Story Sunday or short story. And people were loving the stories, and there are other short stories that I had written for myself. And so I decided to just combine them all into a beautiful collection of short stories titled The Love That Lies Between Us. Okay. So again, The Love That Lies Between Us, it's a beautiful collection of short stories. What I love about these short stories, yes, while some of them are drama-filled, some are love stories, what I really love is that you get a full story.
Yes.
You know, people hear short story and they're like, oh, they leave me feeling like it's an incomplete story. No, you get a full story, complete, and that, you know, complete ending, everything. And what I love is some of them are so inspirational, motivational, they're beautiful. They just let you see the love. It's the love that lies between you and the higher being that you believe in, the love that lies between you and your children, you and your mate. It's all about love and uplifting. It's not, you know, so much of the drama. While, you know, there are a couple of scenes in there that are dramatic, it ties it all together with an understanding that the ultimate love should be the love you have for yourself and love you have for the one that loves you most. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful little collection that I'm quite proud of.
Exactly. Yes.
So those are all of my lovely little books. And if you would indulge me, I would love to read to you actually the first chapter from When Love Ain't Enough.
Okay.
It's short and sweet, but I think it's a really good opening chapter. How about that?
Okay.
All right. So again, this is When Love Ain't Enough. Really, Vince? How stupid do you have to be to know that you need to bring home all the receipts so that they can be entered into the checkbook? I mean, what point does common sense kick in? At what point does common sense kick in? Or am I assuming too much by believing that you actually have an ounce of common sense? Roz, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Vince sighed deeply as he closed the front door behind him. The screeching of her mother's voice drew Lisa out of her room. Mama, what are you yelling about? Your dumbass father neglects to bring home the receipt from the Starbucks. I'm sorry, y'all. Something happened on the phone. Your dumbass father neglected to bring home the receipt from the Starbucks he had the other day, and now he's thrown the checkbook out of balance. I mean, damn, how hard is it to log your expenses? Why do you have to speak to him like that? He's a man, your husband, not some little boy who's been misbehaving. Talk to him with some respect, Lisa demanded. Vince walked up to his youngest daughter and gave her a sweet peck on the cheek. Daddy loves you, baby, but I don't want you to get involved. I can fight my own battles. Go on back to your room and finish studying. That nursing exam's no joke, and I want you to be prepared. Okay, Daddy, I love you. Lisa turned her head back down the hall, but not before throwing her mother an ugly glare, one that warned her to leave her dad alone. Looking weary, Vince slowly walked into the family room, plopped down in his comfortable chair, and leaned forward and rubbed his hands over his head in frustration. All he wanted was to come home to a quiet house and a good meal. He couldn't remember the last time he walked into the house and was greeted warmly by his wife. He couldn't understand how the years had turned her so bitter and mean. He loved her now just as he always had, but clearly her love was changing as the years were rolling by. He still brought her flowers, wrote her love letters, and told her how beautiful she was. She'd always loved his sweet, sentimental, romantic side. Now it just seemed to annoy her. He continued to rub his head and thought about the woman she used to be. They met 24 years ago when she was an innocent and beautiful 19-year-old girl. Vince was visiting family when Rosala and a couple of other girls walked in with his cousins. He was so taken with her beauty that he could hardly speak. She had the most beautiful golden skin, long wavy hair, and a smile that could melt an iceberg. When her Latin and African American heritage had blessed her with the body of a goddess, Rosala was the most perfect thing Vince had ever seen. At the time, he was 21 years old, tall, lanky mechanic, a mechanic apprentice that didn't think he was at all good enough for the likes of Rosala. But to his great delight, she smiled at him and later told his cousin she thought he was handsome. 10 months later, they stood before a small gathering of family and friends and vowed to love, respect, and honor each other for the rest of their lives. Within the first 3 years of marriage, they had 2 beautiful daughters. He managed to land a job as a mechanic at a large dealership, and she struggled through nursing school. It wasn't always easy, but they found their sweet spot. They laughed together, respectfully worked through their issues, kept the romantic fires burning, and demonstrated to their girls what true love was all about. Then it all changed. Heather Ramos was the name Vince regretted ever hearing. She's the woman that Rosala met, befriended, and allowed to plant seeds of doubt in her head about their love and happiness. After 2 months of knowing Heather, Rosala decided that nothing he had was good enough. The trips they took weren't good enough, and Vince himself was no longer man enough for her. That was 2 years ago. And since then, living with Rosala was almost unbearable. Making her happy was impossible. "Are you even listening to me?" Rosala screamed as she pounded her fist on the small end table. "I asked you a question, and you're sitting here like some mute." The shrill of her voice abruptly ended Vince's journey down memory lane. "I'm sorry, baby. What did you ask me?" "Did you ask your boss for the raise we talked about?" "Roz, they just gave me a promotion and a raise 3 months ago. It's completely unrealistic to think I'm gonna get another raise before the year anniversary review. Baby, we're doing good right now. We're doing great. Why are you concerned about me getting another raise?" "If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. I want a new car. I really want a new Infiniti Q70. I think if you ask for the raise, there would be no reason for them not to give it to you. You can't be serious. Your Maxima isn't even 2 years old. You begged me for that car, and I gladly brought it for you. I'm not buying you any more cars anytime soon," Vince explained. "I swear, you're so damn mean. I just don't know." Ooh, she's mean. You just don't want to see me happy." She's mean. I'm sorry. How could you possibly say that with a straight face? "I break my back for you and our girls every day. I do the very best that I can to make sure you all have everything you need. Most of what you want. What else can I possibly do to make you happy? You can drop dead. You'll be worth more to me then. And I could even afford my car," she said with an evil glimmer in her eye. Rosala's words cut like a knife. Vince got up from his chair, went to their bedroom, showered, and dressed for bed. He no longer had an appetite. It had been replaced with a headache and a deep heartache. He never imagined he'd hear such cruel words ever cross the sweet lips of Rosala. What happened to the woman he'd married? Who had everything they'd built meant nothing to her. When had she become so weak-minded? And I'm sorry. When had she become so weak-minded that some silly friend could persuade her that life would be better with more material possessions? Or would her life really be better without him? All of the questions rolling through his head sent pains through his chest. All he wanted was to love his wife and be loved in return. A few hours later, Rosala headed to bed. Great, now I have to listen to him snoring, she complained as she lay beside her husband. She didn't snuggle up to him like she used to do, but instead turned her back to him and eventually drifted off. 6 a.m. rolled around so fast. The blaring alarm snatched Rosala from her slumber. Vince hit the alarm, she mumbled. However, Vince didn't move fast enough for her, so she reached over him and shut it off. Vince, come on and get up or you'll be late for work. She nudged him, but still he didn't wake up. Panic started to set in. Vince, get up, get up. But all the screaming and shaking in the world wouldn't wake Vince up. He was dead.
Wow. And what's the name of that again?
When Love Ain't Enough. And that's chapter 1. So can you imagine the drama that follows?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Out of all 6 of your books, what does the titles mean? Or where did you get the titles from?
Honestly, Queenie, the titles come to me from, honestly, songs I might hear, or literally, I have been in restaurants and I'll hear somebody say something and it's in the way they say it, it's just the turn of a phrase and it'll just hit me, you know? And for this one, When Love Ain't Enough, is, you know, what happens when love isn't enough? You know, I forget what I was watching. No, it's a song. It's an old song, an 80s song. Sometimes love just ain't enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to that, and I don't know the discussion I've been having with someone, but it's like, what happens when love isn't enough? What happens when you've given your all to somebody and it's just not enough? And so out of that, hearing that song and the conversation birthed that title. Mm-hmm. And the others, you know, The Love That Lies Between Us, that one, it just, I don't know, all the short stories were just about love, some type of love, and how it connected us. And it just seemed like such a natural title to me. You know, it's the love that lies between us, and it's not just us as lovers, it's, you know, us as parents and husbands and wives and servants of a higher power. Bitter Taste of Love. I initially had a different title for this book that I can't even remember right now, but me and the original publisher of it, we kind of went back and forth over the title, and and a friend of mine was like, well, I know one thing, I wouldn't want the love that he's giving her. I wouldn't want to have to eat that kind of love. And I'm like, okay, all right. So just the thought of that, and it's a bitter. You don't like the way it tastes in your mouth, the way it sits on your palate, you know? And then the Knife in My Back series, that again, my friend Cassandra, who I told you, you know, motivated me to sit down and start following my passion of writing in the first place, like following it seriously. It was just a conversation we were having about a friend that had stabbed another friend in the back. You know, old saying, well, she stabbed her in the back, or he stabbed her. And it was like, okay, the knife in my back. It just, you know, it just kind of flowed. And so all of them are birthed either from conversations or simply hearing a song that really, really resonates with me. Mm-hmm. Or eavesdropping in restaurants. It's just it's just that one little something you hear and it just really resonates with me and won't let me go.
Okay. The covers are amazing. How did you come up with the covers?
So just describing I found a wonderful cover designer, and we work really well together. And I will literally, it's like, come up with an idea, because I want you to be able to look at the cover. I want it to be interesting and intriguing. I want the cover to be enough to make you want to pick up the book. And for like the knife in my back and all, I don't know, it's just, that beautiful, innocent little sweet brook, but then you've got this person lingering behind her, just ready to pounce and be deceptive. And, the bitter taste of love is just that torn couple. It's me sitting down, and I know the story. I already know the story. And it's just like, how do I want it to come across? How do I want a short message, an immediate message of the image we'll carry to come across? And I really just kind of come up with a description, and the book cover designer, she'll kind of put it to work. She'll come up with one image. I like it. I'm like, yeah, but it needs to this or that. And we'll just kind of tinkle and go back and forth with it until we get what I feel is, very reflective of the story inside.
Where do the characters come from?
Off the top of my noggin, I've got a wild imagination, Queenie. I got a wild imagination. Some, I will admit, are very loosely based on people that I may have come in contact with at one point in time. Like the character Tamika, I would not want to know anybody like as deceptive as she is in my real life. However, some of her verbiage and a couple of things she did, not things that she did, but a couple of her thought processes and things that come out of her mouth link back to someone that I used to know. You know what I mean? They're amped up versions of behaviors or characteristics that I've seen in other people.
Okay. Tell us about your publishing journey.
Well, let's see. Initially, I initially self-published The Knife in My Back. The cover was laughable. I used a self-publishing company because back then, Amazon, like KDP and all that didn't exist. So I went through a self-publishing company. That it was a very expensive lesson because that company cost a lot of money. The editing was poor, to say the least. The cover was laughable. It was like, really? That's awful. It was awful. But I pressed on, and I submitted the book to another small publisher out of Maryland, who picked it up, and I worked with her. She was a small independent publisher. I worked with her. We re-released the book with the new cover, and that was great. Experienced some more sales and got out there. So I appreciate her because I learned to get out there, how to do book signings, how to book all my own stuff, so she taught me a lot, and I appreciate that. And I was with her for a couple of books, and then I moved on to another small publisher that was out of Atlanta, and we worked together for a while on 3 of the books, actually on 4 of the books, and again, learned a lot. So I'm ever so grateful for all the lessons that I learned and the drastic increase in book sales, over what I had previously experienced. But I took all that I had learned, got back the rights to all of my books, redid the covers, and re-released them under SCL Publications, Stacey Covington Lee Publications. And I am thrilled to be self-published. I've released the last two. So yeah, I did 4 under her. I released the last 2 under SC, just strictly under mine without them ever having gone through anyone else. And with everything they taught me, I've been able to really grow my book business. And so yeah, and here I am. And unless somebody comes with a heck of a deal, I can't imagine leaving the self-publishing route right now.
So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm working on a book titled He Won't Go. And it is the story of a young man who grew up in small town South Georgia. He's made it big, and he goes back home to visit his mom. And in visiting his mom, he meets a young lady at their church. Because those country moms are, you might be visiting, but you might be tired. We're going to church, and that whole thing. And he meets this young lady, and they start to date just on his little visit. He's there for a couple of weeks. He takes her out. He's spending all the time with her. And the mom is like, okay, have a great time. Don't be serious about this woman. This woman lost it all when she went to Atlanta to try and be this singer or whatever, this big time singer. She ended up getting addicted to drugs. And now that she has recovered, she's living back in small town Georgia. The mom just does not want her incredibly successful, bright, brilliant son to get tangled up with her because she doesn't trust that the woman will stay clean and sober. And but against her wishes, the son just falls head over heels and takes the woman with him back to California. And it is a wild ride about the decisions that his new woman makes, the decisions he makes, how his mother deals with it, and ultimately how it affects his life. He is a very religious man. How it affects his life, how it affects each of their relationships with God. I think that people will be very pleasantly surprised by this book. It has a lot of drama, but it has a lot of beautiful notes. And so I'm still working on it, anticipating it to be out by the end of summer, first of fall. And yeah, we're going to see how the rest of this goes as I finish it up.
How do you feel about reviews, whether they're good or bad?
I appreciate it. I love reviews. I mean, here's the thing I learned a long time ago. Everything is not for everybody. I think it's unrealistic. While it would be wonderful if everybody that read your book was like, oh my God, that's the best thing I ever read, And thankfully, the vast majority of reviews have been 4 and 5 stars for me. So that's been beautiful. I enjoy reading the reviews. They make me happy. They make me smile. They They do great things for books on when they're on Amazon or other platforms. As far as the negative reviews, again, everything's not for everybody. So, some people will read it and it's just not their cup of tea, and they have the same right to say, hey, it's not my cup of tea, or I found it unrealistic, or I found that it dragged, or whatever they may say. It's their right to do so. That's what reviews are. And you want honest reviews. You want the good and the bad, because you want the next person that picks up your book, if they're a person that goes by reviews, then you want them to hear it all. They'll make a good informed decision and go from there. Like I say, I'm thankful. I've been fortunate to have great reviews, and God knows I hope they continue.
How can readers find you and your books?
You can find me on all social media platforms at Stacey Covington Lee. That's Facebook. Twitter is, what is Twitter? Stacey Covington Lee. Instagram is S Covington Lee. And also my website is staceycovingtonlee.com. Everything is just my name, staceycovingtonlee.com. And of course, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Search Stacey Covington Lee and it pops right up.
Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
I would like to say thank you, Queenie, for doing all that you do for the book community. I appreciate you. I thank you. And thank you to the readers, those that have read my books. Thank you for the support and the love and the reviews. Those that have read and haven't reviewed, thank you for the support. Please go review. Those that haven't read, please visit Amazon, download your copy, enjoy, and hey, leave a review. And let's just gear up and get ready for the next release.
All right. Thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Queenie, for having me.
You're welcome. All right. That was Stacey Covington Lee. She has 6 books. Go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and check out her on Facebook. Again, this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. I am your literary ambassador. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.